All right, guys, Sam here with you on Monday, November 12th. I'm going to do a relatively short update here on Bitcoin. Just to, I can't offer you a new trade setup here, but I can suggest that you consider how the market's responding here. So what it seems to be is happening as we sit in this range, in this relentless series of lower lows, lower highs. Now we're tightening and tightening and tightening. Eventually, we're going to break out of this range. But when the market is responding to a particular set of technical tools or parameters, there's a pretty reasonable line of thinking that would suggest that you want to trade that until it fails, or you see the market reorient itself to some different swing relationships. How about we say it that way? What seems to be really catching Bitcoin's swing relationship here is range expansion, or wolf range as I call it. So just again, we'll get to the hard right edge here, but just if you're evaluating the market and looking for, well, what is the market responding to? Well, it certainly appears that the market geometry and the range expansion are giving us the tells. So if I grab my median lines here, pitchfork, whatever you like to call it, and I'm just kind of exploring here. Now I've got inside on here, so let's go back to original here. Well, that's not helping us at all. So the next one I would check is shift, and that looks pretty interesting. So we notice here that we get a perfect tag of the median line right there. All right. So again, remember that one of the key components of market geometry is that the market defines it. All right. We're not using random mathematics here. We're just letting the swing relationships of the market define. All right, so here this is, that's boy, how much better does it need to be? That's a perfect tag of that median line. And additionally here, the range expansion seems to be very effective in Bitcoin, at least at this moment in time. So I'm just grabbing this first swing down here. You'll note, clear this up here. So it's just the range expansion. So I'm trying to identify the range. So here's the first swing that I get down here. Here's the pivot. Here's the retrace. Well, look what happens here. Look how good this is. So we're tagging. Here's 100% down here. Now we revisit 100% as we hit that median line. I mean, to the tick, perfect, right? So here's the range. Right, now, yes, of course, we've come up above it, but note here that the median line catches the edge of it. Right, so these are tells, right? And now note this continues here. So as we have now just poked our head beyond this here, you might keep this on somewhere. Again, if you had multiple, if you've got a quad display of charts, so you might keep a daily up with this. The fact that this still seems to be containing the market. Again, you don't want to just forget about it, right? But that's the danger here. You go down to 1 hour, and you've got this here, and it's easy to forget about it. Now I'm going to take it off just to clear up the chart and kind of make the point here. But so note here how we tag this here. Now this seems to continue. Now I'm going to go from having established that and these pivots down here within that range here. So I'm going to go from the daily all the way down to the hourly. Now I'm probably going to have to do some tweaking here, as is often the case. This is not particular to TradingView. This is any platform here. When you change that, when you have that big of a change in time frame here, often you'll have to reset here, although actually this looks fairly good here. So now we've looked at this recently here, so I'm doing the same thing coming off of this low here as we get into, well, where's my low here? This is the October low. And I'm grabbing this range here. That's all I'm doing. Just here, well, here's the low, here's the first pivot, here's the first 50 that I tag. So I grab that range. Right, here's 100, here's 200. Yeah, it's not to the tick. We did get through it, but note what we get right here. Right, that initial range seems to still, that's to the tick. Now, I showed you this last week here, same idea here, where I've got the wolf range on, where we're just grabbing this range that we've sort of carved this range out here. So if I grab this high here, going to my lowest low here, let's get these right on there. All right, do you see that? So here's the range that I'm establishing here. Here's the range, right? From this low to this high that seems to be, so you can look at the point of control here, right? So this is the initial range coming off of this whatever the hell that was, this pump move here that was quickly corrected here and retraced. So if I take that range, well, note what we get down here, right? I mean, it's to the tick. These are not insignificant. What these are tells. Now note here. So look, we've gone from 100% of that range here to 100% of this range here. These are not approximate. Those are to the tick, at least here on GDAX. Right. So now we're sitting back down. Now we're at a 50. So these are not insignificant. So again, the thinking here being, no reason to change this until we see this start failing. So range expansion seems to be what the market is responding to, right? It's just one of many different ways we might approach the market. But this is certainly, I mean, these are to the tick accurate. So you look at it now and you go, all right, well, how does that help me in terms of where I am right now? Well, let me clear some of this up. Now, we looked at this on Friday with regards to working with some of the market geometry and an inside pitchfork. Matter of fact, do I have this? I thought I had it on another screen here. Well, we'll just recreate it. So we've got all of this range expansion. So we know this and this. These are technical pivots. So we can be pretty solid about what we're seeing here, that we've got 100 there, and then we've got another perfect 100 here. All right, so let me clear this up here. Let's we'll just clean all of this off here. Say, okay, well, that's very, very fancy, Sam. Great. How's that helping me in terms of where I am right now? Well, okay, so what do we have here? We have a swing low to a swing high. We've come down here. Now we are still internal, right? So remember this idea, right? So here's the swing. As long as we stay above that low, we have an internal retracement. So natural tendency, what your eye wants to see is this. Right, that would be absolute parity. So I'm just eyeballing this, but if I just draw this up, if that's one swing and this is the other swing here, so it wouldn't be unusual to anticipate that you'd have 100%. So you'd have that parity there. Get this right on there, that we'd be looking for that. Well, so note here, we've just tagged the 50 of that prior range here. I got to go all the way back. Well, it doesn't matter. So I have to get that 50 tagged here. Now that's the advantage of leaving a range on that the market has been responding to. So we look here, swing low to swing high. Well, that's no 50, but if I go back to the low that I drew that from, I'm tagging a 50. Again, the advantage of leaving those on a chart somewhere so you don't lose track of them. So let me pull that off. All right. So, and we looked at the inside. So if I grab my low here up to my swing high, here's our inside pitchfork, and we were talking about this on Friday. Note here to the tick, right? So this pivot, these are the three pivots we're working from. The fact that I hit here, right? It still always amazes me. The fact that I hit there well, let's see, what did I take it off of? Was it this one? Shit, now I can't remember. We know we had a perfect 100 off of each of these. Now, as we're using the geometry here, right? So thus the advantage of not taking them off. You won't lose track of your pivots, but I do it just to clear up the chart. So with this pivot here of this median line, of this inside pitchfork that we went over on Friday, right? So perfect frame, perfect framing of the market. Now, it's not to the tick. Yeah, I understand. So we went down just a hair. Maybe it's to get that 50, or perhaps it's to get the 786. So if I grab here, looking for a fib relationship between one swing to the next, well, we're past the 50, but we'll put back on our measured move here, and we'll note that we went right to the 786. So we have a potential technical pivot there. So, of course, first thought is, oh, okay, well, I've got a 786. Well, maybe that's a 1, that's a 2, and I'm going up here for a 3, 4, and 5. Well, certainly possible. This is not unreasonable for a wave 2 to go that far, right? It's always a challenge to push for that pivot. The 786 kind of a last stand where you would anticipate that wave 2, and we've got the median line there as well. Now, this action here off of this low, it's not the ideal that you'd hope for. You'd prefer to have 5 waves, so just a classic zigzag would be your preference, but that's not what we get. So what are we going to do about that? Well, it's hard to call this. It certainly doesn't look like it's a completed corrective structure. if anything, it looks like you might have, it's just not good no matter how you slice that. From an Elliott perspective, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, this, what are you calling that, right? It's tough to dig in. Granted, I'm down here on a 1 hour. Sure, we could probably get something on a 15-minute, but either way, it doesn't appear as that you have anything other than just the first leg of the correction. That's what it looks like to me. So if we're going to get a classic ABC there, this looks more like all we've done is put in the A wave here, and it's not pretty coming down, but it certainly does not appear to be a completed ABC. All right, so yeah, maybe shallow B, some sort of truncated, yeah, maybe. But again, is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. But is it probable? I think what looks much more probable is that we're in the midst of some sort of a corrective move here to correct this move. So, oops, I didn't want to do that. So if this is straight down here, so we think about the internal retracement here. So if I grab this pivot to this pivot, well, here's my 50 sitting right here, 7, 8 days. So it looks to me like what we're doing more likely is some sort of an ABC. We're going to go up and push. We'll challenge this edge of that set of median lines, and maybe we're coming down here to resolve at an algo target, maybe here. Right? Again, I don't know what this looks like. I'm just looking at here and saying, is there enough? Is there enough to support the idea that we've got a technical pivot here that is a 2? Well, boy, I don't like it enough. At least let me say it this way. That's not good enough for me to want to take this as a 1, 2, 1, 2. I just don't like it enough. So much as I always like to try and offer you a trade that's setting up here, we just don't have it yet. Now, I could pull out here and say, okay. Well, if I've got a 786 here, couldn't I just put my median lines on this? Well, yeah, sure, we can. So we might look here to this pivot and say, well, if I know I'm technical here, let me get right on there. Well, look how the inside on top of the inside is giving you this rather interesting channel that just continues. Now, we don't know, or it's always just you're kind of making an educated guess here. If this is going to come up here, the fact that we've got 2 internal pitchforks here that are literally on top of each other, a break here will be significant. So you might look at that and think, well, wait a minute. If it's going to break higher, couldn't I just turn that median line around? Well, absolutely. Let's go back to original. Why not have original here? No reason not to, other than we don't have the legs here. We don't have the pattern to really support the idea that we've gone 1, 2, and perhaps this is 1, 2 going again. It's just not good enough yet. Maybe not that it couldn't happen, but does that look like a 1? I mean, maybe if you get down to the 5-minute, you can get something like this, but why force that? Just no need to. So so really, I would keep this here because we have the potential for the corner pocket, right? As long as this pivot holds, that doesn't go away, right? Just because we don't like the pattern. As long as this pivot holds, we've got 80%. Now, we don't know when we get there. Now, the price is right here. So this is not an unreasonable projection. Remember, that's the market is framing this and giving us that time benefit here. Could be here, could be here, could be never. Could be that we're just going to stay with this. We go back to our inside and we can't get through that. Right, there's the golden zone sitting here. From swing high to swing low, that's going to be a big pivot right there. Can we get through that? Or are we just going to bounce right here at the golden zone and then start heading lower again? Right, hard to argue with that. Well, look where that would put us. Right, that put us right back to the, well, we'd have one median line and one edge. You see, so of the smaller one, we'd have the outside parallel. Of the larger one, we'd be right back to the median line. Just so happens we've got an algo target right there. And if we think about where we are, we'd be coming right back to this technical pivot here. See if I can get that going again so I can show you that. Let's get our wolf on there. So if we go back to, let's do it this way. We'll start over here. So if I go back to this range that we established that gave us that pivot here, well, look now here, we're right back down to a double bottom at an algo target inside the framing that the market is giving us. All right, so what's the outcome here? Well, you're rolling dice, really. Right, it's hard to argue with this idea, this consistent series of lower highs. Now this first time we've got a series of, now we've got some higher lows, right? But so all we're doing is we're contracting, right? So we've got higher highs, higher lows, lower highs. So we're coming to resolution. At some point here, we're going to break out of this range. Right, and the break will likely be substantial. But right now, the tools that we want to use are the market geometry that the market is creating for us. You just have to be willing to look at maybe not your non-traditional applications of some of these tools. Right, just because you don't know them doesn't mean they're not effective. Maybe non-traditional is not the right way to look at it, but just requires a little bit more knowledge of how to use these tools. So I'm not going to discount the golden zone just because the market's moving off of 50s, but I'm sure going to pay attention when we get to that 50, right? Which would be sitting right here. So if I just grab this and move it down here, look where we are, right? That's market acceptance. So our volume profile here, right at the edge, right at the 50 from swing high to swing low. Remember, this would be an internal retracement from this swing. So internal retracement followed by internal retracement. Eventually, that pattern has to break. Now, which way it goes? Well, you got to defer to the fact that we've broken. So from swing high to swing low, we've broken the 65. So we know, we don't have to wonder. We know there will be software that will start selling at that 50. So it makes you kind of lean towards this as the resolution, but doesn't mean we can't get through it, right? So if the buying pressure is strong enough and we can get through this 65, then we get an algo working for us, because then we know, depending on where this pivots, that the next 50 down, there'll be software there. There'll be an algorithm sitting there. So right now, I don't have any buy-side algos working for me from any of these pivots, right? This 65 is broken. This 65 is broken. You know, that's small. That's so small there, and the pattern is so unformed that I wouldn't necessarily. Well, I'm still on a 60-minute here. I wouldn't be trying to buy that 65 off of that smaller pivot. Just not, the pattern's not there. Now, if this was a nice clean ABC and I could dig out a clear motive wave off of this pivot, then I might think twice about that. But right now, it's just not there. So until we break this pivot, this down-sloping trend line here that the market is defining for us with this inside pitchfork, until we can get out of this, you got to defer to the short side, which would suggest that that's where we're headed. Now, as someone who's long Bitcoin, I'm not rooting for that outcome, right? I'd much rather see this break hard here. But you got to look at the market as objectively as you can, and we all bring our bias and whatever if you're holding Bitcoin, of course, that's not the outcome we want to see. But all right, flip it around. If you like it here, you're going to love it down here. It's just all a matter of perspective on it here. Where's the right timing? Now, note here that if we get something like this, the Elliott count is breaking down. So we don't. Really forcing a count here. There is no count really down here. Maybe if this goes, we can make this case that there's a 1-2 going in. But until then, you can get a count on this, but is it really helping you? I would tell you not. Until we get some traction out of here and we can identify a 1-2 and we've got a third that at least goes past some of these 100%, right? Because remember, on all of these hundreds here, so if you look here, and so we measure it this way, traditionally, we take the length of that swing, project from this low. Well, here's the 100 right here. Right here's what we need. We need a 1618. Trading view always screws with me there. We need that. We need a 1618 off of this. Now we can get more confident. Now we know, hey, wait a minute. There's a wave 3. I can anticipate that wave 4. All right, so I can have it. Oh, God, that annoys me. I can get this target up here. So 1, 2, 3, I come down for the 4. That's where that structure can come back into play. And again, I'm purely hypothetical here, but if I grab this, we come up to my pivot here at the 618. Oh shit! Let's try that again. Swing low. Here's my third. Now I'm going to go back to my measured move here, and I think I am. Let's try that one more time. God, what did I do there? There's my third. Let's try this last time. Swing high, swing low. I'm at my 1618. I'm going to switch to measured move. Yeah, I got something wrong here. All right, so something's up. I'm not sure exactly what I've got going on there. well, I'll sort it out, but you get the idea, right? I guess we don't need to have it up there. But so if we get something like this coming down here for the 4 and we push up for the 5, now I've got a completed 5-wave, every time TradingView. Now I've got a completed 5-wave structure that gives me some confidence here that now coming out of this, all of this expansion, now coming out of this, now I've got something I can work with, right? And at that point, then of course you'd look at this pitchfork and you'd turn it around. We'd go back to original. Right, now I got my, here, this is what we're looking for. The 3, the 4, I randomly drew that. But here, 3, 4, and now we come up to the 5, back to that median line. So then now we've got our pattern, our fib relationship. We've got the median lines. We've got market geometry. That's what we're waiting for, and it's worth waiting for it. Trying to dig some crazy count out down here. Have at it if you can find something here that's helpful to you. I just don't see any value in it. Why are you banging your head against the wall trying to get a count down here when it's just not there? At least not yet. The market has not revealed itself yet. Right now, what's effective in here? Range expansion. Range, doubling the range. That's what the market is responding to. So until that changes, until we get a break here where we're going to get a fib relationship, a fib expansion, right? A 1618, even a 1272. Something here to get us out of this range. Right, but don't forget that. So those pivots down here are still defining the market. Whether we go to an inside original market, again, let the market define that for us. So until this pivot breaks, until this, we can think of it this way, until this trend line breaks, we stay in the range, knowing eventually we're going to break one side or the other. All right, guys, that's about all I can offer to you right there. There's just, if there's not a trade there, at least we can analyze here and maybe offer some education that can be helpful based on what happens if and when we do break out of this. All right, guys. I'll wrap it there, and we got a few things we're working on, so keep an eye on our Twitter feed, and we'll be in touch with you guys soon. Okay, see you later.